Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I am really excited to dig down into today's episode. Hey there, poddies. It is the 3rd of February. How has this happened? We finally made it out of the endless month that is January, and I'm very excited. Very excited to be out of January, very excited to almost be over my cold, which has been going on for months now. I'm done with this. So if anyone's got any recommendations for remedies, please send them over before I don't know, like rip out my trachea at this point. We also have some really cool people who picked up the awesome sales bundle of the list building legend and the sales scripts and objection handling price at the discounted rate. So congrats to you guys who picked it up before we put the price up. If you haven't grabbed that yet, you have another 2 days. Okay, you've got another 2 days before we take that off. So instead of paying £27 each, you would pay £50 each for both the list building legend mini course, which helped Dee recently go from having 200 Facebook page likes to 2,000 Facebook page likes and increase her email list by over 1,000 subscribers. Or you can choose to get the sales scripts and objection handling guides, where people have literally used those scripts to land their first 5K sale, to have their first sales conversation, and shares the exact questions and sequence I take people through in a no pressure way, non-sleazy, non-grimy, to help you sell premium products and services. So if you haven't grabbed those yet, you've got 2 more days and you can go and grab those for £27 each. I was going to say the pricely sum of £27 whole pounds, and then realised I'm not in the 1800s, before they go up to £50 each. So if you haven't grabbed them yet, make sure you go and do that. Now, the other thing that has come up this week, exciting stuff over here. I just want to say a thank you, because some of you have been very, very busy leaving reviews, and reviews are massively appreciated. I know that I've been banging on about them on the podcast for a little while. I know that it means the first 2 minutes of the entire podcast are me basically saying, please go and tell people that it's good, which, might be easier. I should find a better way of doing that, shouldn't I? I should find a better way of pitching it. But seriously, it is really important that we do get more reviews. It helps iTunes link the show and tell other people that they should be listening to the show, which is awesome. And so I'm always very, very grateful for anybody who does leave a review. We had a lovely review recently from the amazing Kay Fabella. She said, "Sales made simple for entrepreneurs. Week after week, Jessica Lorimer offers so much value with her trademark wit and British humour. She makes sales psychology, mindset and selling techniques accessible to any business owner looking to sell with integrity. She's entertaining, engaging and refreshingly transparent. Most of all, you can count on Jess to back up her insights with know-how and experience. Highly recommended." Thank you, Kay. That makes me sound much better than I actually am. Maybe I should start getting you to pitch me. For those of you who don't know, Kay is awesome. She, up until recently, was focusing on helping people with their own messaging and positioning, and she still does that, for those of you in the know. If you don't know how to get Kay to help you with that, hit me up. I will introduce you and I'll tell you all the secrets. And she is focusing on selling to corporates this year, working within the diversity and inclusion space with awesome forward-thinking fintech companies. So if you know any fintech firms who are looking for a very lovely and very qualified diversity and inclusion consultant focusing around generational gaps and hiring, attracting, retaining the best talent that they possibly can, then again, hit me up. I will introduce you to Kay. She is epic. Now, I want to go into today's episode and preface this with, recently I have been shopping. I say this like I'm surprised. I am surprised, quite frankly. I hate shopping. I like buying things, but I like buying things from the coziness, the cozy, let's put it that way, of my own couch. I had to do that, and you know that, guys, because obviously it's the whole alliteration thing. But anyway, Recently, I have been stepping out. I have been going into the, I'm going to say quagmire that is Southampton city centre. We have a shopping centre here. It's called West Quay. It's quite nice. I don't usually go there all that often, if I'm honest, mainly because I like to avoid huge crowds of people. But anyway, January sales are on. I never really buy things in sales because I just figure that there's stuff that other people didn't want, and I never end up wanting any of the stuff because I start thinking about it and then I psychoanalyze myself. But I went out, I did the January sales thing. I bought about 4 t-shirts from Fat Base and then had to come home because I was just done. And while I was doing this, I went into John Lewis. Now, for those of you who are listening and are not based in the UK, John Lewis is a department store. It's actually, I think, one of the UK's oldest department stores, and it's got a really good reputation. Basically, if John Lewis was a personality, it would be the parent who can manage all of the extracurricular activities, right? If it was a colour, it would be vanilla. Not beige, it's not dull, but it would be vanilla. It'd be like, it doesn't offend anyone particularly. People like it, and also if you shop there, it's considered like a sign of adulthood. You shop at John Lewis, it's a premium end department store. So anyway, I'm in John Lewis, and I start thinking about John Lewis's personality as a brand, because when you're trying to avoid sales shoppers, all you can do is go into your own head and pretend that you're not there. And so I'm starting to think about John Lewis and its personality as a brand, and I'm thinking about it being the parent that can manage the extracurriculars, that just has their ish together. I was going to use an expletive, but didn't want the E thing, so rock and roll on a Monday. And I started thinking about our own personality and how we can actually profit from our personalities, but in a good way, because we see a lot, and I moan a lot about this, people using sleazy, pimpy, gross tactics online to sell stuff. And I don't think that the majority of those people actually do that with any intention of coming across as being sleazy or gross or pimpy. And I'm recording this and thinking, I'm not entirely sure also that pimpy is an adjective I should be using, but we're going to roll with it for now. But here's the thing, personality is really important when it comes to sales. In fact, at the 2019 Converting Corporates event, one of the biggest things that our hiring manager panel said was that they valued humanity and personality over 80% of other sales traits. Isn't that huge? Humanity and personality. And that's because they enjoy developing rapport with their suppliers. They actually like being treated like human beings, not uncommon or dissimilar to individuals that you might be selling to in the online space. And it got me to thinking about this idea around who we are, and how it's been unfortunately dramatized in the last few years as you should be authentic, and you should be totally authentic and totally vulnerable and totally raw, and that's going to make you a ton of money. But actually, who knows what authenticity is anymore? And that's the question that I started posing to myself, which is kind of like having a little bit of an existential crisis in John Lewis. But I started thinking about, well, how do we even define authenticity anymore? Because in the online space, particularly when we have been selling there and we are hanging out in groups there, a lot of people are defining authentic for us. And they're saying that, in order to be authentic online, you have to show up and share the awful things that have happened. Or you have to show up and be really vulnerable about the things that you get right and the things that you get wrong. And I'm not saying that these things aren't necessarily good or bad or whatever. What I am saying, though, is if somebody else has to define authenticity for you, then you're probably not being authentic. So I wanted to cover in this episode the 3 main sales types of personalities that I believe exist and what they're best used for. Now, you might have heard me talk about this before. In fact, if you have heard me talk about it before, it was probably in my book. For those of you who are relatively new listeners, I have a book. It's called Smart Leaders Sell, because I couldn't be bothered to name anything differently. I named the podcast and then that was it. I just started calling everything Smart Leaders Sell, occasionally with colons and other taglines. I joke, but seriously, I did cover it off in my book. So if you guys have read that chapter in my book and you thought, that was interesting, just going to give a brief overview of those three personalities again, and then actually dig into some of the practical elements, how you can actually use your personality, the personality that you identify with, to become more profitable. All right. This is not going to be about me prescribing social media posts and saying this is what you should be covering your content. This is me giving you a clear idea of which personality type you fit into, and then saying these are the sales methods that are most commonly associated with it and are most likely to work and be profitable for you. All right. So as with anything, and I always say this about my content, your job is to tailor it to you. And if you are struggling to do that, the best thing you can do is get in contact with me, book in a Supersize Your Sales session. They're free. You can have a chat to me and I can tell you where you might be going wrong and give you an action plan to move forward. All right. So using your personality for profit, the first thing we have to look at is what your personality actually is. Now, like I say, when you've been online for a while, it becomes quite challenging because everybody will tell you and they will throw out these buzzwords. You've got to be authentic, you've got to be vulnerable, you've got to be raw, you've got to be strategic, you've got to be an expert, you've got to be this, you've got to be that. And frankly, it just gets a little bit boring, okay? And the reason is that most people are not authentic all of the time. Oh God, how awful does that sound? Yeah. I'm saying that and I'm like, oh my God, in their heads, they're just gonna have just lies. But it's true, right? How many times have you had a partner and perhaps like for the first, I don't know, 30 dates, you didn't tell them about your crazy OCD habit where you have to have the bed sheets folded a certain way and you just pretend that you like the way that they do it. Yeah, everybody has that where you're not totally authentic all the time. Equally, on the point of authenticity, sometimes your authenticity can hurt other people. So perhaps, you've had a discussion with a parent or a spouse or a family member or a friend where you haven't been totally authentic because you don't actually want to upset them and really hurt them for no reason other than you standing in that authentic place. Now, you might listen to that and think, well, no, I'm 100% authentic all of the time. And if you are, that's cool for you. Like, good for you. I'm really, really impressed. But I can say as a human being, there are definitely times in my life where I've dialed down a little on the authenticity because it's been more important to achieve other goals, i.e., not isolating myself from all of my friendship group and, making sure that I deliver things in as caring and compassionate a way as I possibly can. Sometimes that's more important to me than just saying what I think all of the time. But when it comes to personality, specifically with sales, there are three main categories that I believe you fall into. Okay, so the first one is aspirational. If you're somebody who has an aspirational sales style or an aspirational personality, you are somebody who loves to share transformations, right? We see this in the online space, and it does unfortunately get a bit of a bad rap sometimes. Everything does, because people think that it's all about sharing the first class lifestyle and how you bought, I don't know, insert brand name here of a handbag every 5 minutes. But that's not actually what aspirational is. Aspirational is showing the end point of a journey. Sometimes it's showing the journey itself. Sometimes it's sharing wins. It's showing behind the scenes. It's being open about the possibilities. If you do the work, this is the possible outcome that you can expect. All right. An aspirational sales style and an aspirational personality when it comes to sales is somebody who likes to share that. They like to share client wins. They like to share what's going right in their business. They like to share what's going right in their life. Cruelly, you could you could say that these people are the social media highlight reel. And sometimes they are. Okay? Not all of the time. Sometimes they're people who are just really proud of the results that they're getting their clients. And that's never a bad thing, right? If somebody can wax lyrical about all of the results they're getting for their clients, I will listen to that all day long because at least that person's getting their clients' results, right? So aspirational personalities, when you're using those for profit, things that work really well or that you might find really easy are being active on social media. Most aspirational salespeople love being on social media. They love being reactive. They'll post pieces of content that are designed to inspire and motivate other people. They'll share end transformations, they'll share journey points, they will share the behind the scenes, they'll share the wins. And all of these things are designed not just to make bitter, cynical people like me, and hopefully like you guys, because let's face it, we're friends, so we should be relatively similar. Think, oh my goodness, their life is just a dream all of the time, and it never rains in their world. But actually, it's them demonstrating that if you do the work, you should be able to get the results. And you should absolutely bask in that glory. Once you've done the hard work and you've achieved something, absolutely you should be talking about it and telling everyone about it and being proud of yourself and your clients. Okay? So if you're an aspirational personality type, it's very likely that you love being active on social media. You love being on Instagram because it's a visual way of displaying your successes or your clients' successes. And it's really, really common in industries like weight loss, in health and fitness, and of course in the coaching world. It's easy in those places to share and showcase wins and celebrations. And it's inspiring and motivating to their prospects as well. Okay? Now, the second one that we have is this emotion or emotional salesperson or emotional personality. Now, it's had a really bad go of it over the last few years. I am the first person to say that I absolutely detest the social media posts that start with warning, vulnerable post. And every time I say this, I think, eventually these people are going to listen and they're going to stop doing it, and then I'm going to have to stop using that example. But they don't, so it's fine. These posts that start with warning, vulnerable post, and then it goes through the biggest trauma they've ever experienced. It goes into the pain and the raw reality. And then at the end, they say, and if you want to help me, or if you want to make me feel better, or if you never want to feel like this, then you can buy my program for just $2,000 here. And it makes that little bit of kind of sick come up in your mouth because you think, oh, cringe. Here's the thing, emotional selling, or a good emotional seller, does not do that. They do not pimp their pain for profit. That's not what emotional selling is. Emotional selling is actually something that introverts are very good at. And the reason being that they're good at building relationships. Emotional selling and having an emotional personality when it relates to sales is about wanting to build genuine relationships and genuine connections with your audience. It's about sharing the learning outcomes. Perhaps you have been through a trauma that has led you where you are. When you're talking about it, it's about focusing on the learning outcomes, how you overcame the obstacles, sharing the steps that you took to change something or challenge a belief or do something differently, rather than delving into the pain and the trauma. Because what happens when you only dive into pain and trauma and those experiences is that people will buy, right? They will. I don't want to contest that. They'll buy because they feel sorry for you and because they can only see one way of alleviating your pain at that current time, and that is to give you money. That's not a nice way to get paid necessarily. And it also poses a challenge because what it does is it puts your audience into a state of adrenaline that they just cannot keep up. Yeah. And when your audience is in that state of adrenaline, what happens is they'll use and expend that energy really, really quickly. And then they're just like, I can't cope with this anymore. I don't want to see this in my newsfeed anymore. And they leave. So if you are that kind of emotional seller where you are exploiting the raw traumatic pain of a situation to make money, you will rinse through your audience very, very quickly. You'll have to do a lot of new lead generation. Whereas if you're a good emotional seller and you focus on learning outcomes and challenging myths and how to overcome obstacles, you'll find that your audience are really loyal and that they actually build a relationship with you, the person, as well as you, the business. They will genuinely care about your well-being. I'm a combination, so most people will be a combination of two of the sales styles, but one of my sales styles is emotional selling. I get so many emails from people, and I love them. I get so excited. I absolutely love it. People email me and they say really nice things, and they want photos of Max, and they want to talk about my day. And, you know, we get people who email and say, oh, this podcast episode was great and I really loved it, and I loved hearing Max snorting, and how are you and how are you doing? Or, you know, I've had emails in the past couple of weeks from people who said, oh, it sounds like you had a really rough end to the year last year, like, are you okay? That's nice, right? That's really nice, because it means that I've done my job right. You know, yeah, okay, I'm here and I'm imparting some wisdom and doing all that kind of stuff, but also I'm showing you humanity works. Humanity is a core sales skill. Relationship building is a core sales skill. You know, personality is a huge part of sales. And I'm really grateful, and I'm really fortunate that people actually like my personality enough to stick around week after week. And, you know, sometimes I'm amazed by that. But more importantly, it's because I care. I build active, or I try and build active relationships with my audience. You know, it takes me a long time to get back to emails generally, but I respond to every single one myself. My team doesn't. If you send an email to me, you get a response from me. And that's really, really important, because as somebody who is an emotional seller, I want to know what you have to say. I care about you. I want to know that your business is doing well. I want to know when you have issues. I want to know when your dog's sick. I want to know when your dog's doing great again. Those things are important. Yeah. That's good emotional selling. Understanding how you can care about other people, how you can build effective relationships with other people, and how you can share the learning outcomes from obstacles that you faced, and show people how they can avoid that happening to them and sell them that solution. Now, things that work well for emotional sellers are content mediums where you can actually genuinely connect with people. Podcasts, really intimate experience, right? I'm in your ears. It's like we're having a coffee. That's quite an intimate thing. You know, video, you can see body language, you can see how passionate that person is about something, you can see their facial expressions and how they communicate a particular topic with you, and that's important for people. Email, to a certain degree, is a bit like having a pen pal. It builds and cultivates good relationships. Things that don't necessarily work so well for emotional sellers: shallow platforms. TikTok, you know, it's what, like 30 seconds, a couple of minutes of video, usually people trying to do something that's going to go viral. Instagram doesn't always work as well for emotional sellers unless you're in specific industries like fertility, or an industry where people are looking for motivational, like gentle, motivational, soulful quotes and gentle conversations where they can choose to participate or not. Yeah. Twitter doesn't work well necessarily for emotional sellers either, because again, it's shallow. It doesn't really build relationships. And that's what you're looking at. The core thing that's going to help you make money as an emotional seller is how quickly you are able to build relationships with people, how quickly you can develop rapport, how quickly you can build relationships, and also how quickly you participate in that relationship. Relationships are give and take. You know, I say this to one of my clients all the time, and it's not enough to just give value. Never has been. In relationships, you have to also take, because otherwise people get very perturbed by the fact that you are always giving, but there doesn't seem to be anything that they can give you. There's no reciprocity. It makes people uncomfortable. Okay. So that's emotional personalities. It's not about trauma. It's not about sharing every single little detail of your life. It's really about building solid relationships, building good foundations, leveraging those relationships, and ultimately, you know, making sure that you are helping people overcome an obstacle. And then finally, we have fear of missing out. Okay, FOMO, sales style. And this is my second sales style, by the way. I'm not massively aspirational. I don't get it, and I do too many dumb things to be aspirational. But fear of missing out, I love. I just love it. And again, gets a really bad rap. People use false reasons of urgency. They use false scarcity. They use crappy countdown timers. I get it. But fear of missing out as a personality means that you are probably somebody who is naturally very passionate, very excited, a good starter, not necessarily a great finisher, and you're somebody who needs projects to work quickly. It's quite likely, if you're a fear of missing out personality, that your business will be based on a launch model, because you like that adrenaline, you like the rush, you like the excitement of, are they going to buy, are they not going to buy, like, when does the cart open, all these things are going to happen. You probably don't actually get a real kick out of the boring minutia that goes into delivery, creating the course, putting the stuff together, creating all the content, doing the work. Like, you love the launch and you love the live delivery, you just don't really like the bits in between. Yeah. Fear of missing out personalities work really well with technical assistance. Okay. And by technical assistance, I do mean email launch sequences that give good value and good reasons to buy and genuine reasons of urgency. Either there are limited spots or they're not. If there is a cart close date or there isn't, having expiring bonuses, making sure that these are real things, not just things that you're writing down because they sound good and you hope it'll convince a few other people to buy. People who are fear of missing out personalities, they'll talk about anything excitedly. They are the people who are absolutely convinced by a Facebook ad that has a countdown timer on it. They're the people who buy the upsells after they've bought the initial thing from the Facebook ad they didn't want in the first place. They're the people who get excited about people enrolling into their programs. And the technical assistance with tech like countdown timers, or really great email sequences, or expiring web pages, those things are great for fear of missing out sellers. They're fun to do. They instill that excitement and adrenaline that they need to really power through and create an epic launch. Yeah. You can get fear of missing out sellers who are not necessarily into the launch model. You can get them into the funnel model and they enjoy recreating that experience on auto. But generally, if you're a fear of missing out seller and you're just starting, that personality is going to be adrenaline fueled, excitement fueled. You might even find that over the course of your business, you change personality slightly. You go from being fear of missing out, because when you start out, it's all new and exciting and you want to just do the thing. And then as you get into your business, 6 years on, you kind of don't get that same buzz necessarily from a launch anymore, because you've done a bunch of them and you're like, oh, okay, cool, this is how it rolls. And you find other things in your personality to be attached to and to make profit from, building those relationships or being really aspirational and inspirational. Those things become more important. So there you have it. Those are the 3 sales styles that I believe in, and some of the ways that you can be using them to maximize your personality online and actually generate a profit. And it does go without saying that obviously with any of those, it's not enough to just create the content. You have to give a clear call to action. If you do not give a clear call to action, unfortunately, you will never get the results that you want. People have to be told to buy, right? They just do. It's not because your product isn't great. It's not because your service isn't great. It's not because you're not great. It's just because we have to remind people. We have to educate them. We have to inspire them. We have to excite them. And that all comes through having a really clear call to action with a value-based piece of content. If you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure you do head over, click onto iTunes. As freaky as it is to use and as difficult and challenging as it can be to leave a review, I would massively appreciate it. We are now into February, which is very exciting. I'm going to be back next week. I've got an episode planned out for you guys next week, all about the top 3 ways to find more time for your sales activities. So if you are somebody who has been thinking, I'd love to do more selling, but Jess, I just don't have the time, next week I'm going to be sharing the top 3 things that I use to get more time out of my day, even though I only have the same 24 hours as everybody else. All right, so I will see you back here next Monday. If you have enjoyed the episode, do leave us a review, and I'll see you then.